Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. As always, I'm your host, Omar, and today we're going to talk about something that I think too many leaders are doing, and they're doing it the wrong way, which is using AI to make leadership decisions, especially in the frontline sales world. Okay, if you're letting AI make your people decision for you, how you're coaching, how you're training people, you're not leading, you're outsourcing judgment calls, and pretty outputs by AI aren't the same as making those decisions. Okay, really what you're doing is you're using AI at a shallow level, and it's going to create bad hires, bad decisions, fake coaching sessions, and it's just going to break trust within you and the sales teams. It's not a great way, and it's not a good look. Okay, and this coming from somebody that actually does use AI. I've been using AI in the sense that we know it, because for you guys that don't know, AI has been around for a very, very long time. The way that we're using it in our current state, right? This is now September of 2025. It is not the same as when it first came around. But AI is not a predictor, okay, of things. It is really just an allocation of existing data. So that's important to know. And when it comes to people, that makes a very, very, very big distinction. Okay, there's a very big difference there. And what I want you to understand is that, for instance, projects I've worked on, right? Because I have a lot of different projects I've done in the past with AI, have not been just like a single question prompt. I'm talking about some of these are so in depth, it's almost like I wrote a freaking 200 to 300 page book to get the output, not outputs to get one output. So when I see people using it and they're putting in just a shallow prompt, no context, and then just using the output right away and wondering, well, shit, these people must suck because the output is correct. Yeah. Oh, you are setting yourself up so badly, unfortunately. And that's the unfortunate case, because you're not using AI the proper way. It's a tool. It is not an assistant. It is not a decision maker for you. It is a tool. You still need to have a person in the middle approach where you're still involved in the process before the outputs are truly put out and set in public and used. Okay, so it's super super important in that respect. But these are gonna be very important topics we're gonna cover today. It's not gonna be a very long one because this topic is super important, and I'm not the only one that's talked about this. Okay, but one, we're gonna talk about how AI can't see your context. It can't read your mind, and that's very very important to understand. Don't over rely on AI, because that's going to erode your leadership skills, and more importantly, the trust that your team has in you. And we're going to talk about the right way of using AI, using it almost as a co-pilot or as your side coach, right? But not just it doing everything for you. So super important in that respect. Now, generic targets when it comes to like trying to get AI involved, it ignores a lot of information. It really does. Okay, to give you an idea, because I've used it to proof a lot of like the material I use, because it's really great at doing mundane administrative tasks. But when you ask it to, for further information, it'll make up a lot of things. It still hallucinates. It's not 100% proof. When you ask it to give you like the focus on what's super super important, it can make things up or give you the wrong focus. Where, for instance, I've heard this a lot from people in the wireless world when they use AV, or I'm sorry, when they use AI, that it focuses in over reliance or puts an over focus on accessories as a KPI. In the wireless retail world, where postpaid is king, that it thinks the number one ranking metric is accessory sales, and that everything should be revolved around accessory sales. And I get it. I know what the margins are. I've seen the margins. I've lived in that, breathed that space for close to 2 decades. Okay? I understand it, but y'all know that accessories are not fucking king at all. Anywhere near being, an ace, king, queen, or jack of the trades when it comes to KPIs. It really isn't. Okay. They're nice to haves, but it's not what everything revolves around. So it's little things like that that you need to understand. Because if you're just putting something in and expecting the output on the first go around to be that's it, that's my go to, you're sorely mistaken. There is a lot of work that still needs to be involved, and refined before you can even get something that's worth using. And that's going to be a mistake that you don't want to run into. Because when you start putting it out there, you're going to start realizing that it's hallucinating. It's giving you really still data. And your team is going to know that when they see it. And then they're going to know that you're wrong. And the thing that sucks is they may not call you out on it. They may not tell you, they might not pull you aside and be like, hey, just, like the information on that. I don't know where you're getting it, but that's not correct. You have to understand, you have to limit its focus. AI does really, really good when it's not trying to be creative, when it has a formula and a function, right? I put this in, I get this out. When you ask it to be creative, and when it comes to coaching sessions, when it comes to trainings, a lot of it is creative because we need to have an understanding of how we're going to talk to individuals, how we're going to be able to relate and get information across to different individuals. You have to have that understanding behind you to be able to get that. But Omar, AI is really good. It can outperform doctors. It's not that it outperforms doctors. It's that it doesn't have a bias when it is looking at something specifically, and it can pull the data from existing research on this particular topic. When we're talking about sales psychology, when we're talking about sales leadership, a lot of that changes because a lot of it is very subjective. We're talking about psychology where it's not 100%. My favorite quote of all time when it comes to sales, Anchorman the movie, that's the one, and it's 60% of the time it works all the time because it's very true. We don't expect things to work every single time. But once we've developed a framework, something that is going to work a majority of the time, then 60% of the time it's going to work 100% of the time. And if you guys can relate, leave that in the comments. 60% of the time works all the time. I love memes too, so just put those in there. But that's the big thing, guys, okay? And here's the other thing too, is that oftentimes AI wants to give you a one and done. Like this is the all encompassing output, one and done. This is what you want to focus on. That's not it, okay? A one size fits all approach is not going to work. There are best practices out there. You have different level of skills on your team. So understanding how that can happen, how that can work. There's a lot of research I need to do, right, to be able to do it. And when I've done my research, when I've done my work, I might need somebody to maybe condense it, make what I'm trying to say shorter, or you guys have seen it where we try to translate it, right, into corporate speak, stuff like that. It is really good at that because you've already given all the work. You've done the majority of the work. Boom. And you can focus and do it. Now, is AI getting better? Yes, it is. Is it 100% able to be creative and do things? No. You guys see the videos. You guys see it. You got to be very, very, very specific and detailed on the input that you're giving it for it to give you a great output. And even then, you still have to work on that output to fix it to your liking. And that's why I say that as a leader, you can't be using AI shallowly. If you're doing just 1, 2, or 3 prompts and you think that's it, when you're trying to solve major issues, when it comes to training and developing and sales skills, that's very, very shallow. If you don't feel that you're writing a fucking book, then you're not writing enough. That's really the truth about it. Okay? There's a lot that's going to go into it, and you have to have that work behind it. You can't just expect the AI to do everything for you and then it be done when you're dealing with people. Because there's so many different nuances when it comes to dealing with different types of people. So make it make sense. And then when we move on to the next one, right? When you over rely on it to make the decisions for you, it really is going to erode some of your skill sets as a leader because you're not going to be able to make those split decisions on the spot sometimes. Because you're like, well, what would it say? The fuck, who cares what it's gonna say? Like, you're in the role for a reason. Use it to help you and, cut back on the administrative tasks that you need to do, right? Like, for instance, I get a report in the morning. This stuff hasn't been done. Instead of me reaching out to them all personally, it goes into an AI workflow. It takes a look at the ones that haven't been done, and it'll send out the messages automatically and let them know all the information. Boom. It is great at that because it is a very linear item it needs to take care of. You're popping up because this hasn't been, if this, then that, essentially. If these have not been completed, then send a message to these individuals with this information to get this done and have them reply. Have a reply to this message. If yes, nothing. If not, then follow up. And then I'm not having to chase and do everything myself. I can see the report. I know what's going out. And even then, I can honestly get a breakdown so I don't have to really focus and waste my time. That information will just be sent to me directly. Boom. All right, so-and-so. So I know. So if I don't see a message from them, I just want to know what's going on. You haven't responded to it. It's been an hour. What's going on? I'm not wasting my time chasing it. I can focus my mental energy on other more important items. Little things like that, okay? When you start seeing how AI can really work for you, it really does make a difference. But there's a reason why AI is not on the fucking front lines making sales. There's a reason why companies are pulling back AI initiatives from their sales frontline teams. Because there is still a lot that it can't do, and the moment it gets hacked, and you guys would be surprised how easy it is to actually hack an AI system for the most part, because it's essentially social engineering. AI is a tool, so it defers to us as decision makers, right? And when you start going through that and you start asking it questions, you guys seen the videos of a lot of companies using AI to do interviews, and they're the worst interview takers because they're looking for specific responses. I get that, but they also aren't taking into consideration the other aspects of individuals doing interviews. Like, maybe this is a great individual, maybe they're just nervous because they don't interview that often because they're a great candidate. But I can tell that, and I can bring them to ease. I can ease them, and we can have a really great conversation. Simple as that, right? Or maybe it didn't say this one specific word or phrasing, but everything they said is that essentially. So I can differentiate between that when AI is going to be very, very specific about it. So you might think, well, it's a great way for me not to have to do interviews and it's going to cut down on the number of candidates coming in. No, you're really just letting go of a lot of great candidates by doing it this way. Now, can it do certain things like read a resume and tell if the resume is good or bad? Yes. I mean, nowadays people are hacking the resume aspect of things. It's the same thing with the actual interviews with these, AI generated avatars. There's no difference there. So instead of helping, it's creating more work on the back end. And you're not getting as many great candidates coming through the flow. So you need to understand what it's good at, what it's not, and still have a person in the middle approach. So it can correct AI before it goes haywire and it costs you more on the back end than it would have if you had just done it with a regular team. Little things like that, okay? Because then that's also going to leave a mark, a stain on the organization, on your leadership as to why things aren't getting done correctly, right? So that's a very, very important thing. Now, AI can be really great at note-taking. So if you're doing meetings, hey, let me do a note-taking. What was, the consensus? What did I miss? Making sure I can do, follow-ups. Is there something that wasn't answered that was brought up during the process that may need to have clarification? Little things like that, okay? Because it knows the initiatives, especially when it's trained on your data, which oftentimes when you're inputting something into, chat, cloud, or one of these other AI programs, you don't have it really focusing in on your data. It's trying to pull from everything existing, and it's too much, and you're too specific. Bet, like all communication breakdowns with leadership, you think it can tell you need when you haven't given it the context, when you haven't given it the right information to be able to do that for you. So very, very important. And you guys also have to understand that an algorithm, that's not accountability for you as a leader. Okay, people decisions still demand human ownership. You still have to take, ownership of the decisions being made. You can't hide behind an AI that because that's just going to kill your credibility. Well, this is what AI. Then the fuck do I have you as a leader for? Think about that. If everything you're doing is deferred to AI, then why do I have you as a leader? If you're not even being the person in the middle correcting it to make sure it's not going awry. Okay? Other things too that people forget is the biases. We've just literally talked about this. AI is very biased on a lot of different things. For instance, on metrics, like in the wireless world, it thinks that, accessories are the most important KPI. And, I've heard that in appliances, like the most important KPI is like, warranties. I know warranties are important, but it's not, the only thing that matters. There are other things. So understanding like what is super important, what's really going to be the driver, right, to bring in that profitability for the organization, for the locations, it's going to be very important. But AI doesn't know that. You need to train it, and it's still going to hallucinate. So you still need to make sure that you're doing well with stepping in and correcting. Okay, you can't just let it run on its own. You need to be that person in the middle and be like, this is not what we talked about. That's why training it on your own data, right, and having what's known as a RAG is very important. But even then, you still need to be able to step in and correct when things go wrong, because it will go wrong. It is technology. Just like people, it is not 100% perfect. We know this, okay? I've been around a very long time working with, computers. Definitely know this. If we lived in a perfect world, hey, no issue. But we don't. Now, using AI, you got to understand that it's a tool. And as such, you're using it for end results. But you have to understand how to use the tool. It's a very versatile tool to use because it can be configured in a lot of different ways. You need to understand how it's being configured, how it's being used. You have to give it that context. You can't just put in the information that you want, right? Hey, tell me this, without giving it the proper context. And even in, for instance, if you're just using a chat browser and you're giving it, previous context, you need to go back and make sure that you're telling it to look up that information. Oftentimes, you're going to be surprised. It can't pull that information, or it gets, misconstrued, or it gets, bogged down with other stuff. So you have to re-put that in and make sure, like, hey, this is what we're using. Make sure you use this as your go-to. Boom. Otherwise, you're just going to be spitting out wrong information, wrong data, and you're not making informed decisions. You're just spitting out gibberish. And your team's going to know. Your leadership's going to know. So don't do that. Use it as a tool. Okay? Use it to help you prep. Use it to help you be more unbiased. Because with numbers, you can ask it for you, for instance, to give you a breakdown, to give you a chart of progression. I used to do this manually back in the day, where I would take my daily sales reports from my teams, from my stores, my districts, and I would compile it. I would have to do it manually because there really wasn't a way to automate it at that point. And I would have the information put in, and I would put my teams in, and I would track it, and I would have a spreadsheet, and there would be different sheets below. And every single month, every single important KPI, it was tracked. And I could tell the progression. I could tell month over month. I can tell quarter over quarter. I could tell quarter to previous quarter, month to previous month, like progression-wise. So I could see if they were progressing, if they were staying stagnant, or if we were seeing a regression in their progress. right? Because obviously we know if there's a regression, I need to jump in because, hey, they're not performing. I don't want to lose this individual. Like, what's going on? Something is happening that's causing their performance to not be what it has been in the past. Let me step in to try to assist. Okay. It helps you out a lot. Now, if in this day and age, I can put that information and it can spit that out without me having to spend so much time manually putting in the info, right? Having to create the cells and all that for it to call it. I can put in the documents, the sheets, the cells, and it will pull that information for me and be able to make those dashboards. It's really great at that. It's a tool in that respect. Okay. If I'm doing coaching sessions and I'm, for instance, needing to maybe speak to somebody a little bit different, but I'm having difficulty in really breaking that down, instead of creating just a one, worksheet that's going to be it for everybody, maybe I can have it break it down and like, hey, this person, this is how they learn, right? This is it. And really what you're doing is you're helping yourself learn that because you're saying it out loud. You're, essentially verbalizing it. You're putting it out there. So you are starting to learn how to be able to better approach and speak to these people on your team, to relate to them, to make sure that they can get the information, have a better understanding of who they are, how they perform, right? And how I can help them perform. And so I'm a big proponent of being able to use it that way because you're actually training yourself to do things slightly different. And you're training your brain to think in a different way as well. Because you also have to put that out there. Like, how does this person think? How do I see this person as thinking, right? And it's not it telling you because it doesn't know your team. It doesn't know anybody. You do, though. So you're putting it out there and you're actually using it to learn. And that's a very big difference. Not a lot of people do that. Okay, they expect I'm just going to do this and it's going to spit it out, and whatever it spits out, I'm just going to use for everybody. Okay, it doesn't work that way. If you look at my 15-minute framework, I developed that long before AI, but it's very bare bones because a lot of it is conversation-wise. Because I need to understand how they're performing. I need to get a better idea of who they are as individuals, and they're going to write things out, and it breaks it down and it makes it very, very easy for everybody involved. And that's very important for everybody to truly understand. Okay. And when you start using it as a tool, you're helping to ground a lot of what it's putting out on correct data, and you're correcting the data because you can see it and like, this is not correct. Okay. This is not correct. Let's go back. So you have to have that human in the middle, that human in the loop, to be able to see that and to correct that information. Okay. And it's very important to do that. Now, when you're using it for like basic superficial stuff, you're not thinking of like privacy concerns. Obviously, you don't want to use names, things like that. But that's a very big thing to understand. You don't want to input information that's going to be proprietary to the organization because that's going to be out there. Doesn't matter how private you think it is. It is unless it's, off grid and it's not connected to the net and you have it on a private server, then yes, more guardrails are there. It's not 100% still, but it's better than it was when you're putting it in the damn chat window. Okay, so don't be the reason. And obviously, a lot of companies have done better at this, but it's still not 100. But don't be the reason why personal, confidential information got leaked online because you decided to put all of that into chat windows. Okay, so don't rely on AI for everything. Have those guardrails, be the person in the middle, use it as a tool when you're making decisions. Okay, understand it is a tool, it is not the decision maker. You are still the decision maker. And understand that you still need to be very specific. You still need to give a lot of context to be able to get actionable stuff out of any kind of AI tool out there. Like I said, if you don't feel like you're writing a damn book, oftentimes you're not giving it enough context. So let me know what you guys think on that, right? I don't have anything to share AI-wise as far as like any best practices or things like that for you to be able to get in a framework. I could, if you guys want to, let me know in the comments, right? But other than that, I want to say thank you once again for taking your time, stepping into another episode here at Sales Manager Academy podcast. As always, I'm your host, Omar, and I'll catch you on the next one.